Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here with my daughter's 2003 Honda Element. She says she was driving along and suddenly the air conditioning stopped working, which is no good. Today I'm going to walk you through my diagnostic process and the repair of this AC problem. Keep watching. Here are some things to look for if your air conditioning suddenly stops working. First thing to look for is if the AC light comes on. So that AC light does come on, so that says the system is telling the AC to activate. So that means, at least in my mind, that this part of the system, the control side of the system, is at least functioning to the point where it's sending a command to turn the AC on. Now, in this case, the blower fan also has to be on, which it is, and everything is working fine. So we know at least this part is good. Now let's go out under the hood. One of the first things I look for under the hood is the operation of the cooling fans. Most vehicles have two cooling fans. One of them is to cool the engine, and the other is to activate when you activate the air conditioning to help pull air through the condenser. Some vehicles only have one cooling fan that may operate at multiple speeds. But if you have two cooling fans on your vehicle and the air conditioning is commanded on, both cooling fans should be operating. As you can see, the condenser fan on this Element, which is the one on the right side here, is not working. The cooling fan on the other side is working. So that tells me there may be an electrical problem with the system because both fans should be working. Here's something else to look for. The air conditioning compressor is mounted to the engine, and it's activated and deactivated by an electromagnetic clutch. When you turn the air conditioning on, normally you'll hear a click sound and the air conditioning will engage. I'm not hearing that click, and I'm looking at the air conditioning compressor right down here on the front. You can see there that the air conditioning compressor is not engaging. That should be spinning right now. It's not spinning. So therefore, there's some kind of electrical issue, I believe, that's causing the air conditioning not to work here. So let's look into this a little bit further. What we know so far is the condenser fan is not engaging and the AC compressor clutch is not engaging. The first place I go looking for the source of that problem is in a fuse box. Now, it may be an under-hood fuse box like this one, or you will also likely find fuses underneath the dash in a fuse box. In this case, I'm going to check this fuse box. This is super faint, and I don't know how well you can read this. But there is a fuse up here, a 30 amp fuse that controls, well, actually powers both the condenser fan and the AC compressor clutch. Considering both those things are not working, and there's a fuse right here, let's check that fuse and see if that fuse is good. Here's the fuse box for this Element. The fuse in question is this 30 amp fuse down here. It's actually pretty easy to find because there aren't too many 30 amp fuses. So we're going to pull this green 30 amp fuse, and they included this handy fuse puller here, which you just slide down onto the fuse, and then you can just lift up like this and it pulls the fuse out. And we can see that this fuse is blown. You can even see the little burn spot on it. Now, if you don't have fuses handy and you want to just put the fuse in and see if it works, it just so happens that these two here are spare fuses, and this one is a 30 amp. So you could put this one in its place and see if it blows again. I know this fuse is blowing continuously every time I put a fuse in it. So I don't have to do this anymore. Anyway, we've isolated the problem to this fuse right here, or this circuit on this fuse that is causing the air conditioning not to work. Let's look into this further. After doing a bit of research, I found that both the condenser fan and the AC compressor clutch are on this same circuit. So that 30 amp fuse powers both the compressor clutch and the AC condenser fan. Both things aren't working right now, and the fuse is blown. Now I need to figure out which one of those components is bad. Is it the AC condenser fan, or is it the compressor clutch, or is it something else? There's something else that I haven't mentioned up to this point. It could also be that there is a restriction in the refrigerant side of the system. So in other words, there's some sort of blockage in the AC system, and as the compressor tries to run, it tries to push against that blockage and it can't. That will draw a lot more amps and possibly blow this fuse. So we need to verify that the compressor is good also, in addition to these electrical circuits, because there could be a mechanical problem also causing this. Let's just check the condenser fan really quick. Is it hard to spin? Maybe a little, if I'm honest. It kind of is a little bit hard to spin. It could possibly be that this fan is going bad. Perhaps Mechanically also, the fan can go bad if the bushing or whatever that the fan rides on internally is causing mechanical resistance. That can also cause a problem. So I think real quickly, all we need to do is just unplug this fan. We'll put the fuse in and we'll see what happens. Here's a new 30 amp fuse that I'm going to install in here and activate the air conditioning. And I should note, never install a fuse that is larger than the fuse you took out. Never do that. The whole reason you have fuses is if the circuit were ever to overload, the fuse will blow and it doesn't turn all the wiring and everything to smoke. That's the whole point of having fuses. So if you put in a larger fuse, well, you run the risk of burning everything up. So don't put oversized fuses in to address a problem like this. Real quick, before I start the engine and run it and turn on the AC, one thing I did notice when the air conditioning was engaging was the speed of the engine dropped way low and then started to come back up. And that sort of indicates to me that the alternator may be getting a big load on it because of whatever electrical issue is going on with the AC. So I think the alternator is trying to keep up, and as a result, it's bringing the idle of the engine down. We'll look into that further in a minute. For now, I'm going to start it up with the air conditioning, with the AC condenser fan disconnected, and we're going to see how the air conditioning runs. Air conditioning engaging now. Okay, the AC compressor clutch is engaged, and it's still running. Hasn't blown the fuse yet. It may be that the condenser fan is what's causing this fuse to blow, because I would wager as soon as I hook that condenser fan up, it all goes away. Here's a bit of a recap on all this. Some of you may be familiar with the previous videos I posted about this problem in where I was pursuing what I thought was a bad AC compressor clutch. And the reason I thought that is I went down and I checked the resistance on that. And according to the specifications, which was maximum resistance of 4.3 ohms, I had about 5.1 ohms, 5.2 ohms resistance in that AC compressor clutch. In my mind, that was out of spec, and I was like, okay, let me just order an AC compressor clutch. I obviously am wrong on that because it appears that this problem is a condenser fan and not the AC compressor clutch. I say that because with the condenser fan unplugged and the AC compressor clutch engaged, or with the AC engaged, the AC compressor clutch clicks on, pumps refrigerant throughout the system, and I actually have some AC. Now without the condenser fan, that's not going to be as efficient, especially when you're sitting in traffic. That's mainly why the fans are there, to pull air through at slow speeds. So if you're driving down the highway, you'd probably never know that your condenser fan was bad. But if you were sitting in traffic and your AC started, well, not working so great, you would probably notice that. And if you came out and looked to see if that condenser fan was working, and it wasn't, that would likely be the cause of your AC only working when you were driving down the highway and not while you were sitting in traffic. That said, I've come up with what I believe a test to further confirm that the AC condenser fan is the problem and not the AC compressor clutch like I originally thought. And what I'm going to do here is I went through the diagnostic tree and the service manual, and basically all that gave me was check for continuity between terminal 1 and ground. And a body ground, which seems silly to me because the fan gets its ground through the wiring and it's encased in plastic on a plastic tank radiator. So basically, I would do my testing from that terminal number 1 to the body of the condenser fan, because if it shorted out internally, you would see it there. So I did that test. There was infinite resistance, so there's no short to ground apparently. So I couldn't really get anything there. I decided to try something a little less conventional. And in my experience, circuits usually fail under load. So when you apply battery system voltage to them, that's when they'll fail. Resistance checks don't often reveal those failures in my experience. And case in point would be that AC compressor that I thought was bad based on a resistance check, but it is not. And as far as this condenser fan, I can't find a short to ground, but I want to power it up. So I'm going to supply power and ground to the condenser fan and just to see what it does. I'm going to use my power probe to do this with. This has a circuit breaker inside it, so I know that if there's too much of a load on the system, this will just kick off and everything will be fine. So I'm not too concerned about that. You could do the same thing with a couple of test leads that you connect to the battery. Just be very careful, because if it is a high amp draw, well, things could get hot, let's say, real quick. So beware of that, and probably wear gloves when you do that test just to be sure. Because if it is shorted out internally, it's going to get pretty hot pretty quickly. Anyhow, that's a long explanation to say that I was wrong before, but I believe I'm on the right track with this condenser fan, and I'm going to prove that now. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to use my old power probe for this. This little pigtail coming off of it is a ground connection, and you can see that when it touches ground, it turns green like that and makes that noise. When it touches a power source, it makes a different noise. I'm going to power up this fan directly, give it its own power and ground, and see if I can make it work. And if it doesn't work, and this is battery voltage, so what comes out of the power probe is battery voltage. Anyhow, we will touch this and probably hear the ground sound, meaning that there is continuity through the motor. Now, I'm going to add power to it and see if the condenser fan operates. Nothing. So I can't even get this fan, spin it a little bit. The fan's not doing anything. And in fact, it just popped my circuit breaker. So it did exactly what it's doing on the vehicle, and it blew the fuse, which is virtually the same thing as a circuit breaker, except for a circuit breaker you can reset like that. A fuse you have to replace. But they both do the same thing. They open the circuit when there's, well, trouble happening. So you can see that when I try to power this up directly, this condenser fan is pretty much dead. So I believe the cause of the fuse blowing and the air conditioning not working in my daughter's car to be a faulty condenser fan. We're going to go through the process of replacing that right now. There are two main fasteners holding on the condenser fan. So they're both 10 millimeter. There's one up here and there's another over on this side. But you can see that the overflow is sort of overlapping it. So you need to remove this fastener and pull the overflow up out of the way. Now, the bottom of the condenser fan fits into a nice snug little space. So the bottom, that's not the problem. The problem is trying to get your hand down in here to deal with the connector, the AC compressor clutch connector, which is the wires attached to the condenser fan and the connector itself. So you have to be very careful not to damage those when you pull these out. I think it's going to be easier to reach those connectors once I have this dismounted from the radiator and just pull it up a little bit. I might have better access. That's what I'm hoping for. But just know that there's wires connected down at the bottom you don't want to damage. I'm going to start with the overflow. Let that drain out a little bit. Try to position it so that it's not dripping everywhere. With that one fastener removed, this guy should pull right out. Now for the other two fasteners, also 10 millimeter. Now, as I mentioned, there are electrical connectors and things on the bottom. Okay, I did get it disconnected. I'm being very careful of this hood prop here. They're trying to be. Okay, so turn it clockwise and it'll come out like that. So this one doesn't clip out. It goes in and turns. But there we have it, our condenser fan. Looking down in here, that's the connector for the AC compressor clutch. There's also a strain relief on the wire that I'm going to show you that is actually the biggest pain in the butt to disconnect. And really, it was extremely tight getting this out of here. I suggest you completely take out the overflow ends and everything else, in addition to taking off the hood prop catch. So here's a condenser fan. So this clip here is the one that needs to get undone. So this is a strain relief for that condenser or the compressor clutch connector, which connects right in here. So that just unclips and you can pull that out this way. This one here, you need to just sort of push it up. I used a pocket screwdriver to undo it. So I just went in like this, twist it like that to unclip it. And once you've done that, you're kind of home free, because as you can see, these just sit down into pegs on the inside here, which this will be important during reassembly. Those openings that they fit down into right there and right there. I want to show you this while we're here also. So the bottom of the overflow has this little blade on the end of it here, and that bottom of the radiator there. This is the old cooling fan, and before I install the new one, there used to be a clip here that the electrical connection clipped onto, very similar to this one up here where this clips. So along the way that went away. But there is also this strain relief that is hooked on to the side here that won't come with the new part. So I'm just going to depress these and push this through. to get this back. I like to put all this stuff back, including strain reliefs and things like that. But here's what I'm going to do. Instead of trying to connect all this stuff after the fan is down inside the vehicle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the strain relief on. I'm going to take a look at the wire and see if I can find the witness mark where it used to live, and then just clip this part of the strain relief on. Then once I get the fan down inside, I'll just push this into this area, and then I'll just clip the connector on over here rather than trying to mess with everything. You can actually go down and remove the lower splash shield and access all this stuff just fine. I'm just lazy. I don't want to lift the vehicle, and I don't want to remove all those plastic clips. But if you did, this job may be a lot easier. Because I like to provide actual data for you, and I'm using a different meter this time, I'm just going to do a resistance check on the motor here just to show you what it shows, because I believe there was some resistance in the past. Before I do that, this is the resistance of my leads, which is next to 0. So we're not going to have to worry about that. Our reading should be accurate. So 0.8, 1.1, it seems to be wandering around. 1.4 ohms resistance seems to be what I'm getting out of this fan right now. Let's check the new one. This is the part number for my replacement fan. It is a TYC. I'm not endorsing them whatsoever. If you want to get an original equipment fan from Honda, you can. I'm not sure if these are available from Denso or not. They're the original equipment manufacturer. But you're not going to get this whole assembly. You're just going to get the motor, and you're going to have to take these screws out. Actually, you're going to have to remove the fan blades with these 3 screws, and then the other screws that hold the motor assembly to the housing. That's all you're going to get from Honda, and it'll cost you a lot. I'm going to guess that that's probably around $300 or so. This one, considerably less. It was like 60 bucks or so. And it comes with a lifetime warranty. You can make your own decisions on parts. This is just the one that I used. But I always prefer to use original equipment parts. They seem to last the longest and do the best. So if you can, get a Honda part, or I believe that's the Denso part number if you wanted to try and search that out. Let's check the resistance on the new motor. Doesn't matter what leads touch what here. So you can hook them up either way. 8.3, 8.2, 8.1. So this actually has higher resistance, which kind of makes sense, because if one of the windings is shorted in the other fan, then it would have a lower resistance. So the higher resistance here may indicate that these windings are intact, and the reason why this fan is good. Another thing to note, look how easily this spins. Remember how the other fan would barely spin at all? This one spins freely. So that in and of itself may be your indicator that the fan is not doing well. I removed that little plastic, well, the remainder of what was in the AC compressor clutch connector. I removed that so that when I attach it to the new fan, it will attach, because this broken piece was down off inside there, and I just basically pried it out. Well, that is how everything is together and down there. Now I'm going to move that stuff up and out of the way so that it doesn't interfere with the fan when I install it, because that is a lower fan mount right there. So I want to be sure that I don't get the wires tangled up in it. Continuing on with our testing and verification, we're just going to test a new part just to show you how the fan should work when you activate it by adding power and ground. Now I'm doing the same thing as I did before with my power probe. I'm going to be adding power to it. The black wire I'm going to say is ground, and the green wires, or the blue wire, I'm going to say is power. Although it really doesn't matter. This is a motor. You can hook the leads up either way. It'll just spin backwards if you've got them hooked up the opposite way they're supposed to be. But it'll still activate just fine. But let's just check real quick. See how it does. Look at that. Ooh, watch your fingers. I think we're good. Remember I told you I'm going to sneak this down in here and try to get it past the wire. And to try to stack the deck in my favor, I've got this little grabber tool hooked onto the wire. So this way I can manipulate the wire and move it around away from those mounts where the fan's going to go down in. I'm just going to say that I'm doing this kind of the hard/easy way. Probably the proper way to do this is to remove this center support, which if you follow that piece down, there's going to be more fasteners underneath. So you're not just going to be able to disconnect the fasteners up here, it'll come out. And that's why I didn't go there. There's quite a bit attached to it and everything else. But if nothing else, you don't have to completely remove it. You could probably lift it up and move it to the side, and it would make getting the fan in and out that much easier. I'm probably making life harder for myself, honestly, but hey, if it can be done, it can be done. Let's see how good I am. Ha ha ha, famous last words. If only this vacuum line wasn't here. This would go in and out so easy. Or if it was at a different angle. Well, it's too late now. They've already built and designed it, produced it. They should have listened to me. They should have come to me first. Yeah, there seems to be like a midpoint that you just need to wiggle past, and you're fighting between this power steering line and this vacuum line. And again, be careful of the radiator, and also there's a connector on the alternator you need to watch out for it. But I'm just inching it down in. That feels like success. Now, pull my wire up out of the way. I can drop it down into the lower mount. Just these two fasteners. Okay, now it's secure. Go ahead and plug it back in. Now it'll work. If you don't plug it in, it won't work. Without that overflow in the way, I'm hoping I've got the room I need to go down and clip all of this stuff in. And if you're wondering what the other end of my thing looked like, it's this little claw like that, and I just grabbed that wire, moving it around. I found this to be super handy, just having one of these around. Oh, that worked perfect. I hope you heard that click. Okay, that's the way to do it. I was able to reattach everything down there just fine. Let's get the overflow back in and test it out. Remember when reinstalling this to get this blade down into that slot. Don't forget the little plastic for the hood prop. That goes in at an angle like this, and then you just twist it clockwise and it clips in. Hey, I can already hear it working. And it's not blowing any fuses. That's what we wanted. We wanted air conditioning, condenser fan, and no blown fuses. We figured it out. You should be proud of yourself. AC is working now. In fact, I feel great. And my thermometer is over in storage, so I can't show you how cold it is, but it's definitely cooling nicely now. So the condenser fan certainly contributes to the efficiency of the air conditioning system. What, did you think I was gonna do my closing out there where it's hot? No, I'm gonna sit in here in the air conditioning where it's nice and cool. I hope this video helped guide you through if you have a sudden loss of air conditioning in your vehicle. You may not necessarily end up with a condenser fan as the cause of your problem, but I believe this diagnostic breakdown will work on just about any vehicle if the air conditioning suddenly stops working. Go through those checks. Things that you can just observe, like, is the fan working? Is the AC clutch engaging? Are things happening when you push the button inside the vehicle? Does the blower motor come on? Air conditioning, there's so many moving parts, literally, within the system that there's many areas where things can go wrong. So there's no one thing. I have additional information on solving AC problems over on my website, EricTheCarGuy.com. That will be linked in the description, along with additional information, additional element videos, all kinds of stuff. So please check the description for more stuff, because there is more stuff there, believe me. Thank you so much for watching today. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I'll see you next time.